Let's go. Good evening and welcome to Success in the City. My name's Helen Webster and I'm with the lovely
Sandra Scott, and our fabulous, accomplished and inspirational guest today is the wonderful...
Hi, I'm Irene Afful, founder of Amateur Coaching and Consultancy. I'm so happy to be here this evening.
We are ecstatic you're on. I'm delighted.
You're going to be in one of the finger fives, aren't you? Like that when we say, guess who our guests have been.
Yeah, you're definitely one of them.
So massive thank you for giving your time to us this evening. So the first thing that we do is we shout out to the kids, any little people who've done amazing things this week. Do you want me to go? Do you want to go, San?
I'll go first then. Okay. Not that little, but I think I told you the other week, I've been teaching 2 young girls who come from Ecuador and live in Madrid now, and they've been overstaying with families. They've been here for a month, so we finished today. And they made me, and I've never had one made, like a little bracelet thing out of cotton.
Oh, a friendship bracelet?
Yeah. No one has ever given one. They're tiny. It's just gorgeous. And they're like little shades of pink and yellow. It's so intricate. And I just thought, how can they give me a lovely card? And one of them, the twins, and one of them was quite confident anyway. The other one just wouldn't speak. And I took them to a coffee shop in Allison Road the first week, and they were like, eh. And I'd go, no, come on, and now they're just like, yeah.
Oh, fab.
It's incredible. And so today we did mock job interviews. They were fuming. And I was going, come on, why do you want the job? And they were going, it's more money. And I was going, no. So, you know, it was really cool. So just delighted for them, really. You know, they did. So, and they fly back to morning.
Oh, amazing. Well, safe trip back to the twins. Well done. Well done to you as well. I'm going to give a shout out to, there's a group of young people from Merseyside. It was on Merseyside Police's Facebook page today, and they are sailing. They're going off on one of the big sailing ships, but I can't find the post now to read it. But they're off on a big sailing ship. It's on Merseyside Police's Facebook page, and it's saying, like, you know, wishing them well. I think they're going from somewhere to Dublin. They might be going across. Sorry, the dog, Missy, go over there. But they're going on like a big tall ship, and I just thought, how cool is that? So fair play to them. And I'm going to give another shout out.
Oh, sorry.
Do you know who it is, Irene?
No, I've been on one of those when I was in the police.
Have you?
On the tall ship?
Yeah, I was a mentor on the first voyage and watch leader on the second. So teaching the kids how to sail, teaching them teamwork, teaching them how to deal with conflicts and things like that. It was an amazing experience. We sailed across to France and then sailed into over to Ireland. We sailed, what was the name of the port? It was the port where it was linked to the Titanic. I can't remember the name of the port now, but it was linked to the Titanic. And then we sailed back across the Irish Sea and sailed into the River Mersey and docked up in the River Mersey, and then had a party at the end and an award ceremony. So it was an amazing experience, amazing for the kids.
Petrifying. But we should have Jim Greaves on here from the STA. He does it, the Sail Training Academy, and they do so much with young people. And my nephew got to go on a trip with them years ago, and they get kids on the tall ships, and the kids love it. It's really good, isn't it, Irene, for team building and things like that.
Yeah, because you're in a close environment, aren't you? So you've got to get on, haven't you? That's, you know.
And we have to take responsibility for doing watches as well. You know, checking that we're not going to hit anything, making sure that we're having in place, steering the ship and everything. So everybody takes it in turns of peace, and we do watches over the 24 hours. So it really teaches responsibility as well.
Amazing. Well, good luck to all of them. And I'm going to give a big shout out to our beautiful Ben. So our young Ben Ellenson, who's been our guest twice, he has Football with Ben on Instagram, and he started his YouTube channel this week. So big shout out. He did the Lionesses game. He did the Lionesses game, and he's just gone from like a little thing to he's just doing dead well. So big shout out to our beautiful Ben.
I saw a picture of him with his mum.
Oh, he's massive now. He's bigger than me. Yeah, huge he is. Yeah, yeah. So big shout out. Who do you want to shout out to, Irene?
Oh gosh, you put me on the spot there.
Any kids?
Can I? It's kids or adults?
Little people, kids, young people, anyone.
Do the grown-ups later.
I give a shout out to my son.
Yes.
Lots of challenges, but he's really thriving really well. Yeah, he's got lots of challenges, and how he navigates it all, I don't know. But yeah, he's got neurodiversity challenges. So, yeah, but he's thriving. So big shout out to him for dealing with all the issues he's got to deal with.
Well done. Well done. Big shout out to you. Well done. Well done. What's your success this week for you personally? Do you want to go first, Irene?
Well, I've just had a 6-month appraisal. I joined the board at the Walton Centre as a non-executive director in January this year, my first non-executive director role.
Very good.
Had my first appraisal, 6-month appraisal, which went really, really well. I was really surprised at the feedback that I got, because obviously it's a new organisation for me. I've never worked in the NHS before, and getting to grip with the structure and the processes and everything, and the papers that you have to read for the meetings. And it was a baptism of fire. And I was thinking, am I really making a difference here? And the feedback that I got from the chair and from my fellow execs was, yes, definitely making a difference. Really positive inputs, really constructive inputs. And yeah, thinking about things from a different angle, which is what they wanted, me to sort of come in and bring my kind of lived experience and the different way that I look at things because of that experience that I've had. So I was really happy with that. I was really pleased. So I kind of skipped out of the office and feeling really, really pleased with myself.
No, that's brilliant. Sometimes we don't think we make a difference to things because we want to have a good impact. But actually, as you say, just putting different perspectives. If you have an organisation with a culture, everyone tends to think the same way. This is how it is. And when the people go, well, what about this? It really does shed new light, and no, good for you. I think that's marvellous.
So I'm loving the role as well, which is great. Working with a great bunch of people. And it's a fantastic hospital as well.
Yeah, we are very lucky in our city to have such good hospitals.
To have some of the specialist things we have here. It's incredible.
Yeah. What about you, Stan?
Mine seems terribly insignificant.
Mine is as well. I'm going after you.
I was my non-executive director. Okay, so mine is that my son's girlfriend's coming over from Italy, which we're very excited about because we haven't seen her for a few months. But she's flying into Liverpool, not Manchester. So I don't have to go to Manchester at 11 o'clock at night, which is what happened last time. Because, Irene, I have a box on my car to monitor my driving. And I appreciate normally teenagers do that. But I had a couple of accidents, one involving a wheelie bin. So it monitors. So I've been getting a high score in emails saying how great I am. But when I drive after 11 at night for anything, it puts the score right down because it says you shouldn't drive between 11. You can't have to go to the airport in Manchester this year, or 4, in fact, for 11 at night onwards. So it just puts the score down to 54% for that section and gives me an overall of 70 odd when I should be up to 99. So I'm fuming. So that was a win. She's flying into Speak. Guess when she's flying in? Helen. Saturday at 11 o'clock. And Helen and I have volunteered. There's a big cycle event, a 70-mile event going on. For raising money for this little boy, Nathaniel, for his medication. We had them on the show. And we said, we'll help. And so we're going to these checkpoints for everyone on the way, all the way down to Conway. And I thought, I've committed to do that. But they can get the bus from Speak.
Yeah, they can get the bus. They'll have to get the bus.
Very true.
So I'm very happy. So that was a win for me.
Brilliant. That's a great win.
I didn't think, look at his success compared to.
I know.
No, little wins are just as important.
Absolutely.
My win was I was a tourist in our city on Saturday.
Yes, great. Yeah, go on.
So we don't do things, do we, in our own city? We've got an amazing city, and we did the 360 Liver building tour. And if anybody hasn't been on, I highly, highly recommend it. It's absolutely amazing. It's about 70, 80 minutes. And you go up onto the top and you look out over the city. And there's a little film that you watch, which is amazing. And it's just a really, really cool thing. So our friends were up from Swansea, and this was booked during lockdown.
Oh, wow.
And then we'd booked to go, and then Wales went back into restrictions, so they weren't allowed to travel again. So Rach had emailed and said, "Oh, our friends should have been coming from Swansea. They've gone into restrictions." Anyway, that was about 18 months ago. And
wow.
then they were coming up, and we said, and Charlie said, "Oh, I'll just email." Anyway, he emailed them, and they said, "Oh yeah, we'll honour that." So how good is that? That we honoured it from all that time ago, and we got to go on Saturday, and then we went out drinking and dancing. So yeah,
Brilliant.
So I'm still feeling rough now.
Yeah, I sent her a message on Sunday. She said, "I'm hanging."
I was destroyed on Sunday. I was destroyed on Monday. I was still feeling a little bit tender this morning.
Good night then.
You know.
Yeah, it just seems as we get older, we can't take the alcohol as well.
I really can't.
I'm so rubbish. I really am rubbish.
It was amazing. We'll say, I don't think I've drank since then.
I know, but never mind. Okay, we're going to play this or that. Irene, we're going to ask. I'll ask you and Sandra. Sandra will ask me and you. Just an easy little this or that. Should I go first, San?
Yeah, you go first.
Okay, so I want to say a massive thank you to Corporate Connections for sponsoring our show for this month. So massive thank you to them. So they're all about business in the city and people making connections.
I bet you're going to ask what I was going to ask.
So I'm going to ask first. So, would you rather have a breakfast meeting or a lunchtime? So would you rather go and have like coffee early morning or lunchtime-ish meeting? I'm going to ask Irene first.
Lunchtime is better for me only because breakfast meetings are difficult because I've got to get my son to school.
Yes.
So I'd prefer a breakfast meeting, but it's just not possible. So lunchtime.
Lunchtime. What about you, San?
A lot of people are affected by school run and things like that in business. It does impact, doesn't it? You have to make it work around your family. Yeah, it's difficult. 100% breakfast meetings. You know, I remember the first time going to one when I was a teacher and I was raising money and I worked in a special needs school. And I remember I was going, it's at 6:30 in the morning. I just couldn't. And I was like, oh. And I went in the dark and it was winter and now it's just second nature. We just get up 5:15 on a Friday, done in, and then you finish by 8:30. It's great. So I'd much rather have a morning because the lunch takes so much time out your day.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah,
there we go.
I'm the same. I like a breakfast. I like breakfast. I like breakfast workouts. I like early morning workouts. I like early morning.
Yeah,
you've got less time to talk yourself out of it, haven't you? If you first thing in the morning. Yeah. So so early mornings for me. Okay, San, your go.
Mine was a similar question, but not about time. And so because we're sponsored by Corporate Connections, which are a very, very high level, close networking group in the UK and internationally, in fact. I was going to ask you, if you go to something that's a networking event, Irene, because you are in business, do you prefer something that's structured and you know what's going to happen and they give you set times to speak to people or you sit around a table, things like that, or just events where you mingle and have a cup of tea and someone says a few words?
I think I'd probably prefer the mingle angle because then you can choose who you want to speak to, you can gravitate to where you want to go. And sometimes when things are structured, it can be a little bit stifled. It can stifle conversations sometimes. So yeah, I prefer probably just to have a free and mingle, have a coffee, have lunch or what have you, and then make conversations across the event.
Yeah. That sounds very civilized.
It does. I quite fancy that as well, the way you explain that, Irene. I'll be well. But I like a bit of structure. I like to know I think, some mingly ones are really nice. It depends on the minglers, doesn't it? It depends who's there. So yeah, if you can mingle with cool people, then I'm quite up for that. Yeah.
I
what about you, San?
Need the structure. Because I think if you go to mingle events as well, you speak to a few people next to you, but that might be it. Whereas when you're in a structured event, people all say what they do. But it's just how people feel, isn't it? It's just, horses for courses, as they say. Okay, your go, Hal.
Okay. We're going to find out a little bit more about you in a minute, Irene. So I've sort of tried to theme these around bits and pieces that you've done, okay, without giving too much away. Would you rather self-study, so get your books and things like that and go and study yourself in the library or wherever, or be part of a group class or lecture?
Definitely group class or lecture, for sure, because you can share ideas with fellow students. You know, you can ask questions if you get stuck on something, and there's a lot more support around that group structure. When I did my master's degree, it was in that vein. You had your lectures, and then you'd go away and do your assignments. But having that opportunity to speak to other students and to find out where people are struggling and discuss where you're struggling, and then you could support and help each other. So, and also, you're less likely to get lazy as well and think, oh, I'll do that tomorrow or I'll do that the next day. You can put things off when you've got to study in your own time. So yeah, the structure keeps me focused, keeps me on point, and keeps me doing the work. So yeah, definitely class.
I'm 100% exactly the same. What about you, San?
Me too, 100%. It's much better to learn in a classroom environment, or not a classroom environment, but a community environment, especially when people are mutually supportive and everyone's helping each other and working together. And if you don't get something, people can explain it to you and vice versa. Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Go on, San, your go.
Okay. So mine, I'm gonna take it back down a bit, really, to where we normally at. Okay, so Irene, would you prefer a cooked breakfast or a healthy breakfast like muesli with seeds and fruit on?
Well, interesting question. I don't eat breakfast. So yeah, I know it's supposed to be the most important meal of the day, but I don't feel hungry in the morning, and the idea of eating first thing in the morning, I don't have the appetite. So I tend not to eat until either mid-morning, 11 o'clock-ish, or wait till lunchtime. But if I do have a breakfast, I do like muesli with yogurt and fruit and honey. I do really, really enjoy that. Yeah.
Nice. Very good.
Yeah.
I have that for lunch, actually.
Yeah. I'm a bit this. I like a cooked breakfast, but I also like. But I could only eat a cooked breakfast every now and again. Although on Wednesday it was my dad's birthday, so we went to Bernie's Deli, and we had cooked breakfast there, and it was very, very good. So in Muggle.
Yeah, your dad a card, Helen.
It's all right, he said. What would you rather have, San? Cooked breakfast or porridge?
Well, I'd much rather have a cooked breakfast every day, but I know that's not healthy at all. And unfortunately, I wake up thinking, I could eat now. But coffee, I tend to have a coffee when I get up, definitely. And I've been trying to I've been not having breakfast and having a piece of fruit and trying to be a bit more healthy lately, making an effort, and just having like 2 sort of meals if I can rather than 3. But I do find it difficult. And there's nothing nicer than having breakfast like on a Sunday morning or something,
Yeah.
Like that. So
I think breakfast for me are a treat. If I'm away, like, if I stay over in a hotel somewhere, then I always will have breakfast because that's a little bit of a treat.
But someone else is cooking it.
Exactly. And that's always better.
Last one, Hal.
Okay.
Go on.
This is sort of like in the same thing. We'll find out a little bit more in a minute. Okay. Irene, Happy Valley or Line of Duty?
Well, I've only actually watched the first episode of Line of Duty, so I've not seen it all yet. But Happy Valley, oh my goodness, I was hooked. And
I've never seen it.
Never seen it. It was amazing. The character, Catherine, she was just absolutely amazing, so believable. She was just an amazing actress, isn't she, Sarah Lancashire? But Happy Valley, only because I haven't seen all of the Line of Duty, but I was just so hooked with Happy Valley, and I was gutted when it came to an end. I wanted more. I wanted more episodes, to just to carry it on. Fantastic.
And you haven't seen Happy Valley, San?
No, never. I've seen clips of it, but I'm not a soap watcher. But I do remember that Sarah Lancashire was Raquel in Coronation Street, which shows the diversity, in terms of skills of that actress.
She's
She's
unbelievable in it. She's absolutely. You need to watch it.
I will
need to watch it. It's unbelievable.
All right, that's the next one. We're watching Modern Family at the moment.
I loved both of them. Both of them were amazing. But I think if I had to choose, I think I'd choose Happy Valley because it was just amazing. She just blew everybody away. Yeah. Go on, San, your very last one.
Okay, my very last one is, would you rather go to the cinema, Irene, or the theatre?
Theatre, for sure. I love musicals. I love dramas. Yeah, definitely the theatre. I mean, I do go to the cinema occasionally, but there has to be a particularly great film on. Like I went last week to see Oppenheimer, which was
it was
good.
It was amazing, absolutely amazing. I mean, I knew a little bit about the story, but not the full details of the story, and absolutely loved it. It was a long film; it was over 3 hours, but I absolutely loved it. But I would much rather go to the theatre because I love that kind of like shared experience with other members in the audience and stuff, and engaging with the shows and stuff like that. So yeah, theatre's definitely huge.
Just a minute, Hel, just to interject slightly. One of the funniest things ever was I went to see Greece when I was at US Airways, which is an American Airlines. Now we used to have a little club and we'd put money in each month and we'd go to the Empire. And we went to see Greece and someone shouted at this bit when someone made a comment to Sandy on stage. One of the girls at the back just shouted, bitch, like that in the theatre. But the whole theatre just was crying, laughing. Everyone just laughed their heads off straight away. It was just so funny. Everyone was so into it. And I think there's a lot of that element with it as well. And just Irene and I went to the same school. Irene, do you remember the things in the drama hall where you used to have to pay money to go to Top of the Pops? The original lip sync. And we used to raise money for charity. And it was like a big thing in our school, wasn't it? Crazy.
It was, yeah.
Helen, would you rather go to the theatre or
theatre? Hands down, theatre, million% theatre. Yeah. I love the pictures, but theatre massively. Okay. So we're all done. Quick, we're going to hand it over to Irene.
She's like the most interesting guest, so we wanted to speak to her.
Go on, San. You can introduce Irene.
Okay, so I'm absolutely ecstatic to introduce Irene Afful, who is the founder of Ametrian Coaching and Consultancy. And probably rose to sort of, I was going to say notoriety, not notoriety, fame, etc., as being the very first female Black police inspector in the Merseyside police force. Is that correct, Irene? Have I said that right?
Yes, you've said that right.
So, at what were very challenging times in our city, and has gone on just to do such great things. So what we'd love to hear about is your journey, how you got to where you are now, etc., your path, if you like, and what you're doing currently, and then about what the future holds for you.
Okay, well, thank you. I don't know where to begin, really.
Start with the lip syncing in school.
I tell you what, I when I did that, I played, remember Adam and the Ants?
I was going to marry him.
Well, I was Afful and the Ants. And we did Prince Charming, and God, it was so funny. I had the white stripe across my nose, and
brilliant!
It was just amazing.
It was mental.
Yeah, I loved school. I absolutely loved school, both primary and secondary school. They were just like the teachers that I had. I think we were just really blessed because they were so like supportive and so like sort of believing in you and believing in your potential and stuff. I had one fantastic teacher in primary school called Mr. Price. I'll never forget him. He was Persian, half Persian, which is amazing, isn't it? And he was my class teacher for a couple of years. And oh my goodness, he was so motivational. He was so just believed in you. And if you had a problem, you could go to him and talk to him about it and stuff. He was just he really set me up, I think, for schooling and for starting to believe a little bit in myself as well. And I also thought he was really gorgeous as well. So that helped. very young age.
Out of interest, who was your good teacher in secondary school? I'm curious here.
In secondary school, probably a woman called Mrs. Crow, who was my year.
Oh no, she was lovely. The geography teacher. Oh no, that was Mrs. Crow. Well, did she teach geography?
She didn't teach geography. No, I didn't have her for any lessons. She was just our form tutor, but she was like one of those teachers who kind of helped you to believe in the power of your skill set and the power of your ability to achieve whatever you wanted to.
Amazing.
She was really, and she was very down to earth as well. She wasn't like she wasn't as strict as some of the other teachers. Some of the nuns particularly were incredibly strict. And, you know, if you opened your mouth in class, you know, you got told off. And if you dared to like question what they'd said, you get told off. Whereas she was very, very approachable. Yeah, very approachable. Yeah. And just seemed like one of us, you know. She seemed to like.
Oh, I went to the same school and spent 15 weeks in detention in second year. So we had different experiences, but well done you. That's so good. I like teacher, but there we go.
So where did you go when you left school?
So when I left school, actually, I started my A-levels, but I wanted a job. So in the summer holidays after I finished 5th year, or is it year 11 now?
Yeah.
I was looking for jobs, so I was applying for jobs, and then I didn't get a job, so I started back doing my A-levels because all my teachers were like, you know, I was gifted in the sciences, chemistry, biology, maths. I took my maths O-level a year early. And they wanted me to stay on and go to university. And all I could think about was, my mum can't afford to you know, pay for me and to keep me while I'm at university because she was a single parent. There was 3 of us. My dad had left when we were very young, when I was, I think, 7 or 8. Didn't pay any money towards our keep. She had to take on 2 or 3 jobs to keep a roof over our heads. She worked really hard and I didn't want her to struggle on. So I wanted to get a job. We all wanted to get a job when we left school at 16, which we all did. Yeah. So I managed to land a job with the Liverpool City Council just as a clerk. So I took that job and it was great because I had my own money. I felt financially independent. I went on my first holiday when I was 17 with the girls I worked with, which was just amazing. So, yeah, I took that job and then I thought, well, I can always educate myself as I'm going along. So I did day release. I went to college. I did public administration qualifications. Then I ended up moving into the law department, and I was dealing with claims against the council, so investigating claims against the council. So I think that's where my investigative skills began. Loved that. Then moved into child protection, dealing with care proceedings and wardships. So we gathered the information and the evidence to take to court to safeguard children, essentially. And it was in that job that I met a couple of police officers who obviously dealt with the criminal angle of child protection. And they were really down to earth, really, really lovely chaps. And we got on like a house on fire. You can imagine typical Jacks like in the pub over lunchtime and going into the pub, you know, outside the court at the end of the day and stuff. And occasionally I joined them. Now I had a very, very negative, up to that point, I had a very negative view of the police because when I was growing up in Toxteth, I was racially abused by police officers when I was just hanging about on the streets, and they'd come into the estates and they'd shout all kinds of racist abuse at us, and I really didn't like the police. In fact, I was really frightened of the police, really, because I was thinking, you know, you're supposed to protect us, and there you are, like shouting abuse. And of course, I was living in Toxteth when the riots were on. I was privy to the way the police policed the black community through my uncles and my cousins who were older than me, who had really bad experiences with the police. So it wasn't a career I would ever have even dreamed of going into at all. Because I was studying law when I was in the local authority working in child protection, because I wanted to be a legal assistant and a legal executive. So I started studying law through the Institute of Legal Executives, and I was partway through that course when I met these 2 chaps. And one of them said to me, have you ever thought of joining the police? And I just burst out laughing. I was like, why on earth would I ever want to do that? And he was like, well, I think you'd be a good police officer. I think you'd make a good detective. And I'm like, how'd you get that? Like, sort of thing. And I just played along with them. And I was like, oh, yeah, no chance. And then one time I met up with them And they brought me an application form. They went, yeah, fill that in and
Wow.
apply. Oh, God, I said, tell you what, to humour them, I thought, I'll just apply because I'm never going to get in. You know, from Toxteth, I'm black, I'm a woman. I'm never going to get into the police service. So I thought I'll fill in the application and I'll humour them. And then when I don't get in, I can go, see, I tried and I knew I wouldn't. So I filled the application form in, got called for the entrance exam, scored top marks in the entrance exam. Then I got called for a series of interviews and then the medicals and physicals. And it was over a protracted period, over about 3 or 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
The next minute I got a letter saying, you've passed all the recruitment process and we'd like you to start in, I think it was January 1991. And I was like, what the? Oh my God. What do you do now? What do you do? Because I was like, I just didn't expect it. And I was like, I don't know what to do. And I was asking my friends, I was asking my family what to do. Half of them were like, that, don't be going anywhere near them, racists and sexists. And
yeah,
were like, well, you can make a difference to the community. You know, you could get a good career out of it. And I just really didn't have a clue what to do. So I weighed up the pros and cons. And the biggest pro was it was a massive jump in salary from what I was on at the time. So I thought, actually, I could buy my own place if I joined the police. So I thought, okay, that's going to sway me. And then I thought, I'll just give it 3 years. And if I don't like it after 3 years, I can go back, continue with my law studies. You could always get a job back in the council back then, because once you'd been employed by the council, it was easy to get back in. And I could go back to the council or I could go into private practice, whichever. So that was the plan. I joined and I thought, I'll just see how it goes for the first 3 years. So went to Bruges, which is now closed down, the training school. Loved it there. It was residential, so you lived on site for Monday to Friday. You came home Friday, come home for the weekend. And that was fine because I had no ties. I wasn't married. I had no kids. So I was a free agent, really. And that was great. And I loved it. I treated it like a camp.
Yeah. When you were on your training, was the were there any other women? Were there any other black women?
There were on my intake. I was an intake of, I think there was 28 of us on the intake. And from what I recall, I was the only black person on the intake. There were some women. Yeah. We were probably maybe back then about 20-25% women, and the rest were men. But I was the only black person on my intake from Merseyside. But we trained with Cheshire, Greater Manchester, Lancashire, and Cumbria. And there was one other Asian lady on our course, and there was, I think, 2 Asian men, and that was it. So yeah, it was very, very low in terms of ethnic minorities. But because I was very physically, I loved going to the gym. I've been going to the gym for years, so I loved all the physical aspect of it. You know, all the training and the physical stuff. I did actually have to cheat though on my swimming exam though, because I wasn't a very good swimmer. So I got doubled up with this guy who was an Olympic swimmer, and when I was doing life saving and I was trying to life save him, I was bloody drowning myself. But
oh my God,
long and kind of like swam a little bit under the surface so I could get into the other side. I got through. Just about, but the other physical stuff like the running and all that kind of stuff, there was no problems. And in fact, I beat half the men in some of those competitions as well, which I was really proud of. So I got an award for best all-round student from my class, and then best overall, I think, best overall female. I think I got an award for that as well, and an award for fitness as well. So that was great. Loved it. Went to my station. Went to Lower Lane, which is in Fazakerley, and that was my first station. Got to the station. I was the only woman on my section. I was the only black person as far as the eye could see in the whole of the station. There was like 90 odd officers worked at the station with the CID and the other specialisms, and it was really isolating, and I just felt like a fish out of water. Number one, because of the uniform, and I wasn't used to wearing a uniform, and I don't like uniforms because you stuck out like a sore thumb, you know. And I was like, oh my God. And there was a black officer who worked at Kirby, which is one of our sister stations. And I remember within the first couple of months of me starting, he actually came to the station to introduce himself to me and said, you know, you will find, you know, there may be issues, you may have some experiences that aren't very nice. And if you do, please come and speak to me and I'll support you, which was absolutely fantastic. So I felt I had a friend, which was great. One of my first experiences was with my training sergeant, who I walked in on telling a racist joke to a number of colleagues of mine. And I was just like, he didn't see me come in, he had his back to the door. And like my colleagues like all laughed. And I was just like, what have I come into here? And then when he turned around and saw me, he was like, we need to have a conversation. And I thought he was going to take me into his office and go, right, you better not tell anyone about this. And if you do, I'll make sure you lose your job. I expected to be threatened. And I was really, really surprised to find that he actually apologised and was like, really, I should never have said that. If you want to make a complaint, this is how you make a complaint. And, you know, and he was really apologetic. And I thought, I'm not going to make a complaint. You know, I'm still in probation first and foremost. And I said, I don't want to make a complaint. I said, I just don't want to hear anything like that ever again. Yeah. If I did hear something like that again, then yeah, I would be making a formal complaint. And from that point on, we had a mutual respect for each other. And he was great. He was a great colleague. He was a great teacher and trainer. And that was dealt with. So loads of sexism. Oh, I could tell you some stories about some of the antics of officers back then. Thankfully, it's not the same now. Although unless you're in the Met, yeah. Different. But in Merseyside, there was lots of sexism back then. But you know, we moved on. We had support networks. I was chair of the Black Police Support Association, and we had those support networks for women, for people from the LGBTQ plus network, and we all worked together basically to try and change the culture of the organisation to make it more diverse and to make it more inclusive of people who were different. So I did a lot of work on that in the police, particularly when I got to inspector rank, because I was the senior black officer, if you like, in the force at that point, before they parachuted in two black superintendents and a black female ACC. And I was like, why are you parachuting these people in instead of growing your own? You've got talented staff within the organisation, but they weren't getting through the ranks at all. So they were bringing in people from other forces. And that was stuck in my throat a little bit. And I'm like, what are we doing to nurture the talent that we've already got, to progress the talent we've already got? So we developed like some positive action initiatives to try and address some of those things. So yeah, I worked hard, put my head down, did my sergeant exam, got promoted to sergeant. Then I was like, yeah, I want inspector, I want to be a mom, I want to be a boss. So I did the inspector's exams, passed them both sets first time, and then got through the process for promotion to inspector. And then that's when kind of like I got a voice, if you like, because I was on, you know, I was a boss then, if you like, and I had a voice. And that's when I started to agitate for change, really, and to get changes done. On top of my day job, this wasn't, you know, that wasn't my core role. You know, I was a critical incident manager. I did patrol. I did professional standards. We're investigating bobbies who were not doing the right thing, if you like. And I also did the investigative angle. I went back into child protection, which I absolutely loved, both as a con sergeant and inspector. And I also did major incidents, so investigating murders, gangland type murders. So I had a very, very varied career, which I absolutely loved. Got involved in lots of different things. Some things that were not very nice and you couldn't unsee, you know. We had a couple of scandals in the force around circulation of emails that were sexist, homophobic and racist, and there was a massive investigation. And as chair of the BPA and the chair of the other support networks, we were sort of brought in to kind of support staff who were affected by it. So that was actually picked up by the anti-corruption squad who monitored emails, and they picked this up. And the sad thing about it was that, you know, officers were forwarding these emails on, these really, really disgraceful emails on, and there was a couple of senior officers were involved in sending these emails on and laughing at them as well.
Yes. You really need to watch In the Line of Duty 100%, because that's what
I am going to be watching that. Absolutely, I've got it downloaded onto my iPlayer, and I'm going to be watching it. So, but yes, lots of like kind of challenges within the organisation. And then, of course, there was that secret policeman documentary, wasn't there? And thankfully, none of our Merseyside officers were involved, but it did show the level of sort of racism that was happening, you know, in the training school, and that was within some police forces and stuff. So, yeah, lots of challenges, but also some fantastic colleagues that I worked with who were doing such amazing work and who were really, really dedicated to the job, and also dedicated to making sure that people didn't suffer discrimination and things. And I had lots and lots of allies within the police service who worked with me and with the other networks to try and make changes for the better. And, you know, they mentored us and supported us and supported us in setting up the BPA and making sure we had a voice at the top table with the chief officer group with on a quarterly basis. So it was amazing. And then I got, I suppose, co-opted as the vice president of the National Black Police Association. So that was looking at stuff on a national stage around equality and diversity in police forces all around the country. And then following on from that, I got headhunted for the College of Policing, who had a programme, a massive progression programme for black staff, and it was looking at the recruitment, retention and progression of black officers within the police forces. So I was like a consultant working with 21 forces, looking at the positive action programmes, looking at their action plans, looking at the giving them best practice and ideas on how to improve things, and monitoring the progress that they were making as well. And that was really interesting, seeing how different forces work, because each force is unique and individual and does things in its own way, in a very different way. So that was really enlightening as well to be involved with that. And that led me up to my retirement, really. So just
before you retired, Irene, Jan Railton's listening in, and she says, how do you encourage minority groups to apply for these roles in today's modern police force? Good question,
Jan. Brilliant question.
It's a really great question. And, you know, one of the things that I did when I was in the police service was developing a program called the Phoenix Leadership Program. And that was to target getting more minority groups into the police service. Now, when you look at the black community, because of the legacy of the riots and the legacy of the poor policing, there was a massive mistrust in the black community, which is why you didn't get very many black people applying to join the police, because it was like they were seen as the enemy. It was a them and us kind of scenario. So the biggest thing is building that engagement with the communities and building that trust back up again with the communities. And I think I was unique in my position in the sense that I grew up in Toxteth. I suffered discrimination from the police service in Toxteth, and there I was as a black inspector in the police service. So when I went into the communities to talk about this programme, to talk about the police service, the first thing the community wants is honesty. And it's like, yeah, the police haven't got it right. Yes, there's disproportionality in stop search. Yes, you will no doubt probably experience discrimination of either racism, sexism, homophobia. You will have experiences of that. But we're trying to improve and we're trying to make ourselves better. And the only way we can do that is by having more people who are different within the organisation who can teach us from their perspectives, from that lived experience perspectives, which is what I did in my career. And that's why we need people to join to help us to be better and to help us to be able to police all communities efficiently and effectively. So that was my message. You can criticise from the outside, but you can't change from the outside. You can only make changes from the inside. So there had to be that acceptance of honesty first and foremost to build that trust again. And that's
Irene, when you retired then, did you know what you were going to do before you retired when you set up your coaching and consultancy firm, or did you do something else then go on to that?
No, I always knew that I wanted to set up my own business, and I always knew that I wanted to continue doing EDI work, equality, diversity and inclusion work, because I did a lot of work within the police service, and I knew that there was other organisations outside of the police who would probably need to do some changes, shall we say, in terms of equality and diversity, in terms of advancing people who are from minority groups within their organisations. So I always knew I was going to do that. I thought I was going to do it more through coaching of individuals, of coaching of people to build the confidence to go for these roles, and then coaching chief executives and senior managers around how to recognise talent within minority groups and within diverse groups who are different to them, because we know with the operation of bias, people recruit in their own image. And if the decision makers are all white males, then they're going to recruit white males. And that's what we see reflected when you look at the senior levels of organisations. We see that it's predominantly still white male. Women are starting to make more of an inroads now, but in terms of ethnic minorities, there's still a dearth of ethnic minorities in those senior positions. So something needs to change in businesses as well as public sector as well as private sector. So I always knew I wanted to make a difference somehow. I thought it was going to be originally through coaching, and I did a coaching qualification. But when I set up my business, I started off doing coaching, and then I was asked to speak at a couple of business events through the women's organisation. And I did a talk at the women's organisation. I did a talk for some other networking events. And I just got like a kind of a plethora of requests to come and do motivational speaking. And I never saw myself as a motivational speaker. You know, I'd talk about my story, but I never saw myself as a motivational speaker. And all of a sudden, people were just wanting to bring me into their organisations, bring me into their conferences, and to do these speaking events. And as you know, Sandra, I spoke with, that was the what do they call the organisation who brought me in?
Was it a BNI one that Teddy organised?
BNI. And then I did one for the Institute of Directors, and I actually joined the Institute of Directors, and I joined the committee, because when I went to one of their events, I saw that I was kind of like a massive minority in the room.
Yeah, very much so, yeah.
Someone who looked like of ethnicity. So I was like, businesses and organisations need to be doing something about this.
Definitely.
When you go in now, Irene, when you're going in and they say, will you come and be a guest speaker? When you walk in and you look around the room, can you tell what sort of organisation it is without even speaking to anyone?
Well,
or you can get like a little feeling.
You can tell the type of organisation in terms of who's in the room and who's represented in the room. So you can get a feel for organisations by seeing who's in the room, and also by the way you're approached as well by the senior people in the decision makers, how you're approached by them. Because I know sort of like in the early days when I was kind of like going to organisations and saying these are the services I offer, you know, this is what I can do for you, and I very much got a closed door. Really, it was like, oh, it's the nice to do, but it's not the essential. It's not like business. And you know, when we get some money in, spare, you know, funds, spare budget, then we'll do a bit of work. And I'm thinking, you're missing the point here. You're missing the point completely, because ED&I is not nice to do. It's core business. It's essential. And it should run through all your systems and processes. It should be a standard agenda item that runs through all your processes, like your finances, like your people policies. It should be core business. It shouldn't be an add-on, and it shouldn't be, you know, sort of we'll do it when we've got time or space, we've got other priorities. It should be a priority. So it was very much a closed door. Lots of organisations were getting rid of their EDI specialists and things like that. And so it was very much a difficult kind of door to open within most organisations, because they didn't feel there was that need for, you know, we've done EDI, we've done the diversity thing, you know, we don't need to do that. But if they looked at themselves, they would see they haven't done it properly, and they haven't made a difference. So I think I suppose the catalyst for change was George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter movement.
That was massive.
Then there seemed to be a huge sea change, and people started to look at themselves and to find that they were wanting in the EDI sphere. And when I looked on LinkedIn, the number of jobs that were being advertised for equality, diversity and inclusion managers, and there was a whole stream of them. There was loads being advertised, and people started to realise, actually, we're going to be exposed here if we don't get this right. Yeah. And then I was getting lots and lots of calls then through LinkedIn mostly. People want me to come into their organisations and do some training, which I do some developmental workshops, and to help organisations develop some equality and diversity strategies with action plans that were measurable and monitoring processes as well. So that's when the kind of consultancy wing really kind of took off. And so I've worked with lots of organisations, public, private, in the charity sector, supporting them with reviewing policies, policy development, strategy development, action plan development, training of staff, particularly the boards, the senior leaders and their boards, so that they get an understanding of what needs to be done within their organisations. Because if you haven't got the buy-in from senior leaders, it doesn't matter what you do on the ground.
It comes from the top down, absolutely.
Just set from the top. So it was targeting the senior leaders and the boards and working with them as well as working with the organisation. And the thing for me is I only like working with organisations that I can see are passionate about it and want to make a difference. They just don't know.
Not a tick box exercise.
Yeah, they're not giving it lip service. They want to, as you say, they're measurable. They've got targets. You can see it's making a difference. And you know, when we have diverse groups and just don't work with people like ourselves, it's a richer organisation. It's more successful because everyone's got different things to bring to the table. You know, it's very naive to just be with people like yourself. You know, it doesn't work. It's not how the world is, really, if you think about it. You know, it's foolish. But
research has consistently shown that having that diversity, particularly at senior leadership levels, makes a difference in terms of your profitability. So it makes pounds and pence sense to organisations, which they don't seem to get, you know, and that's been shown over year on year on year. So it's like, why aren't you doing it then? You know, why aren't you acted on it?
Oh, you're just so interesting, honestly. And, you know, and I see why. I bet even you know, you do all this structured training as everything, like you were saying, but even just your almost, it's fact, but anecdotes, as people might say, of your past, you're your own Mr. Price, actually, because they're very inspirational, you know, and people think, gosh, and it's about strength of character. And to have gone through what you went through and to have been like racially abused by the police, then say, no, do you know what? I'm going to be strong. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to pass the exams like you did, be as successful, get the awards you did, and to lead from the inside. That takes some character. It really does. You know, we're so lucky to have had you on the show.
But I think,
can I ask, Irene, have you written a book yet?
Everybody keeps asking me that. Have you written your book? In fact, I was in the supermarket just earlier and bumped into an old colleague of mine, who was a special chief constable. And he's a counsellor as well. And he's like, have you written your book yet? Because he's been on at me for years to write. I haven't got time. I don't even know where to begin. I don't know what to do. And he went, your story needs to be out there. He said, you've got a story to tell. You need to get it in a book. And I'm like, oh gosh.
Yeah.
I'll get to it at some point. I don't know when. But I can get a ghostwriter. Any ghostwriters out there who want to help me with it, please.
Yeah, we had to go. We knew a ghostwriter, didn't we? And we've had a few published authors on. So if you're listening in, let's get on to Irene and get it. But I think it's not so much about your story; it's about the lived experiences, isn't it? Of the shared knowledge of I was treated like this. This is what I've done. Because I think we were saying before we come on air about young people, and if we knew this when we were younger, if we can inspire the younger generation, which I think are pretty cool. I think we've got a good young generation. They do get a bad press, but I think we've got a good young generation coming up. If we can inspire the change in them, so when they're going through, it's just the norm to be surrounded by women, surrounded by ethnicity, surrounded by whoever, and you're just a human. Then the world will be such an amazing space. And I think it's those little messages which would be dead cool to share.
Yeah, and I think young people do get it more so than our generation, because there is so much more diversity, in the country and in the community now. So it's not unusual to see people from different backgrounds and to see people from different religions and stuff. It's not as unusual as it was probably when I was growing up, because where I grew up originally, when I'm not sure I told you about, I lived in Wavertree, and back at that time it was quite an affluent white area, and we used to get I'm literally chased by people from the National Front, the skinheads from the National Front, that right wing, and we'd get chased home from school. We were in primary school, and they'd throw stones at us and hurl racist abuse at us. Black family in the area. And it was horrendous, absolutely horrendous. And then when we moved to Toxteth, that's when I actually felt safe. And everyone says, Toxteth, it's a rough area. Well, actually, Toxteth has got an amazing community spirit, and I'd never felt so safe as I did there. There was lots of poverty, there were lots of challenges, lots of unemployment, but by goodness, we looked after each other. You know, the community so regardless of what was happening with the policing and stuff, we had a great community spirit. Toxteth is an amazing community to grow up in, and I was so grateful to have that experience because I felt safe, you know. And it is about sharing that lived experience and understanding what it feels like to be different and what it feels like to be treated differently, and for people in the majority to understand that and get it, and then they can actually, why should that happen? Why does that happen?
We need the book.
Yeah,
we need the book. Come on.
I know. I'll get there eventually. Sandra. Honestly, I will.
Definitely. Well, I think we could listen to you for ages, isn't it? Because it was just unbelievable. Time is flying away. So we are going to do a very quick red face because Sandra's got a belter. She's just said.
Oh yes. So I had one today. So I've been doing some consultancy work with a school that's a specialist provision that's being set up, a new school. And one of the teachers is going to work there. I spent half a morning with her and the person who's going to be the head teacher, planning stuff and things like this. And I was sat at a desk when we were working, and she was actually sat on a beanbag. And I did say she could sit at the desk, but she didn't wish to. She's an art teacher. She was quite cool. And we had a lovely time. It was a few weeks ago. And I never would have been good in the police because I can't remember faces, Irene. I've got to meet someone 10 times before I remember what they look. I can remember the words out their mouth. I can't remember what they look like. So I go to this meeting today for this uniform provider because we're looking for uniform for school. And I'm thinking, is nobody going to introduce me to this lady? So I said, oh, hello, I'm Sandra, pleased to meet you. And then I saw a look of horror on her face. And I thought, oh, God, you're Sue. I've met you and spent half a day with you, aren't you? And I was like, oh, goodness. Have you changed your hair colour? I was going to and I was just like, kill me now. The shame of it. And I just thought, this is such a bad thing that happens to me. So that I could. And I was like, and I just thought, I just didn't recognize.
There is a known thing as face blindness, you know.
I've got it.
It's amazing. I listened to a thing about it, face blindness,
I'm not as bad as Stephen Fry. He's horrendous. I speak loads of languages. Stephen Fry speaks loads of languages, a lot more than me. And I wondered if it's the thing. So my son always takes the mickey and I go, is this Al Pacino? Or is this, what's the other one? Who does the Italian? Yeah. And he goes, for God's sake, Mum. And he goes, and I'm just so bad with faces. I'm absolutely hopeless. So that was my red face today, and the lady's face was like horror. So now I'm going to spend like the next 3 weeks making it up to her, which is mortifying.
Don't worry about it. You haven't hurt anyone.
Mine
is that the battery went flat in my car, and when they fixed my car, they did something to the battery anyway. Yeah. So the clock was off. So I always set my clock so I have an extra 15 minutes. So if it's half past, I set it for like 1:45. So when I jump in, I know that I've got 15 minutes.
Right, okay.
So when I set it yesterday, I set it the wrong way. So instead of setting it for half past, I set it for 1:15. So I was like 15 minutes behind, thinking I've got 15 minutes. So I got in the car this morning, thought, God, I'm going to be like mega early. So I tootled along because I had loads of time.
Oh, no.
And then I got there and thought, yeah. So that was my red face. There you go.
That's well ways.
Shout out to the grown-ups, any grown-ups who've done amazing things. I'm going to shout out to Dave Murphy, who sorted my car. His mate sorted my car on Friday. And I sat in his office in the garage and did all my work, and he was ace. And then he took me on a little tour, met his mum and everything. So big shout out to Dave Murphy. Thank you very much.
He's brilliant. Dave Murphy did all my car for me also as well. Okay, I've got a shout out to all the planning. Do you remember we had the people on who were doing the fundraising on Saturday for Nathaniel to raise money for his medication so he doesn't have the seizures to the same extent? And the organisation that's gone into this, people donate. We're in the WhatsApp group, the stuff, the effort people have put in. So shout out to Andrew, Che and everybody.
And happy birthday to Andrew.
Yes, happy birthday to Andrew, and also a massive shout out to Danny de Brabander. Danny de Brabander I wore my sweatshirt the other day, who's been in hospital again, you know, and he's just absolutely soldiering on as much as he can. So shout out to him. So he knows we're all thinking of him.
We are thinking of you and we're sending you big love. Yeah.
Okay.
Who do you want to shout out to, Irene? Any grown-ups?
Do you know what? I'd like to give a shout out to the most amazing man who's been a fantastic constant throughout my life from when I was about 16. And that's my priest, Father Peter Morgan, who
I know Peter Morgan.
St. Anne's Church. I've known him for 41 years. He has done all our family christenings, you know, all the weddings, all the funerals, and he's been my good mate for all those years, from when he come to the parish when I was 16. And I still go to his church in Liverpool, even though I live on the Wirral. I still go to his church because he just brings he brings to life the teachings of the church and the teachings of the Bible. He just brings them into modern life and modern challenges and what people are facing and stuff. And the amount of voluntary work he does on top of being a full-time priest. Oh my God, the work he does with asylum seekers support.
Yeah, that's how I know him. Yeah, through all the work he did.
And you know, he used to host AA meetings in his house. He's the chaplain for the women's hospital, you know, giving the last rites to poorly babies. I just am in awe of that man, absolutely in awe of that man. And he knows the name of every parishioner who comes to his church. And bearing in mind, a lot of them are like, you know, so transient parishioners who are, you know, asylum seekers who've come into the area. He makes it his business to get to know them, to get to know the story, to get to know the family. And he never, ever forgets them. And he's an amazing man. So a huge shout out to Father Peter Morgan. He's just
brilliant.
Fantastic.
Fabulous.
Big shout out. What you reading, what you listening to, San?
Well, I'm listening to, as this seems to be happening at the moment, bar the last one I read, I'm just following your book list. So I'm listening to The Compound Effect at the moment. I'm only just into it, chapter 1. Darren Hardy, oh my God, amazing. And on about consistent effort, that, you know, really, really good. I'm really enjoying it and I thoroughly recommend. I've sent it to about 3 people already. I think it's that good. What about you, Hel?
Well, I am reading Jog On. And Jog On is a book. Jog On, it's called, yeah, and it's a real story, and it's how a lady suffered with anxiety, depression from when she was young, didn't understand what it was. The doctors gave her loads of medication, and one day she just thought she'd go for a little run, and instead of it being chapter 1, 2, 3 to 10, it's 1K, 2K, 3K, and it's her journey about how exercise has changed her life. And she basically, you know, on the first K, she was talking about, you know, she couldn't walk, she, you know, she was puffing and blowing and everything, but how the exercise and the benefits of exercise has massively changed. And it's fascinating because although she's written it from her talking as if she's having a little chat with you, there's loads and loads of theory in it, and she's you know, she's done lots and lots of research, so it's an excellent book. So yeah, I'm up to 4K, so yeah, really, really good. Yeah. What about you, Irene, if you've got time to read?
I don't get a lot of time to read for pleasure, unfortunately. But I will share like a book that I am hoping to get to read, and I've got it with me here.
Just bring it forward a bit. It's a bit blurred. Sapiens, A Brief History.
I've seen that. Sapiens, I've seen that on, yeah.
That's the one.
Supposed to be amazing.
That's what I want to get to. I bought it when I went on a cruise last October, and I bought it and thought, oh, I'll read that when I'm having me downtime sitting by the pool and stuff. And I never did have downtime sitting by the pool because we were off doing this, off doing that. Well, that's my next book that I've got to read. So yeah.
Billions. Are you with us, Hal? A bit behind, I think.
Amazing. Okay. I'm back.
Okay.
I'm back. Am I back? Well,
yeah, you're back.
Really?
You're back in the room.
Closing quote mantra.
Is that you live by, Irene? Is there anything you live by?
My favourite quote is, a successful person is one who can build a successful. No, hang on a minute. I've forgotten it. A successful person is one.
Okay.
A successful person is one who can lay firm foundations with the bricks others have thrown at them. And that's a quote from a guy called David Brinkley, who was a White House American correspondent. But the reason why that resonated with me is the bricks for me represent challenges, the challenges that you face, and that could be challenges because of your socioeconomic background, could be challenges because of your, minority status, any challenges that you have, physical, neurodiverse. It's about using those challenges to really propel yourself and find your area of expertise or area of excellence to propel yourself to reach your full potential and build a successful foundation for yourself by learning from those challenges and by overcoming those challenges and building your resilience. And when I first read that, I thought, oh my God, that speaks to my life, of all the challenges and the setbacks and things. And then you just keep going, don't you? Pushing through, keep pushing through, keep pushing through. It doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter what your background is, you can achieve if you put your mind to it and you use those challenges to really learn from and to propel yourself forward. So yeah, that's my quote.
Absolutely brilliant. What a fabulous guest. That we've gone well over, but it was
only a little bit over.
Thank you so much.
So massive thank you. Thank you to you, Irene, for giving your time, being super busy and sharing all your little nuggets. We're really looking forward for when the book comes out. Maybe we'll make a motion picture. Massive thank you to Sandra. And we will see everybody next week.
Thank you too. Lovely to be on the show. Thanks.